Cash Patel is a lot of things. Not transparent, a liar, and we can go on. And that is why I don't believe I'm about to say this, but Cash Patel and the FBI have decided to cut ties with the Anti-Defamation League. I kid you not. Check it out. FBI cuts ties with the ADL amid conservative backlash. FBI Director Kash Patel announces break with anti-Semitism watchdog amid outrage over description of Charlie Kirk. So, first and foremost, let me make this very clear. He is not cutting ties with the ADL because he cares for the Palestinian people. It's not because of that. He cut ties with the ADL because on their website, they had criticism of Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, and they described it as, I guess, one of the hostile, radical organizations. Yeah. So it's partisan. So let's go on here. The top law enforcement agency in the United States has cut ties with the ADL, accusing the advocacy organization and anti-Semitism watchdog of spying on conservatives. The FBI Director Kash Patel made the announcement on Wednesday after prominent conservative influencers, including Elon Musk, pounced on the ADL's inclusion of the murdered right-wing activist Charlie Kirk in its glossary of extremism and hate. So some people didn't know this, but yeah, the ADL for quite some time, they had Turning Point defined as one of the extremism and hate organizations on its website. And yet Turning Point USA was still willing to do the bidding of Israel. I mean, it's really wild when you think about it. Yeah, that was from the ADL. In a brief statement, Patel singled out the ADL's association with former FBI Director James Comey, a strident critic of Donald Trump, who was indicted last week on charges of obstruction and lying to U.S. Congress. Patel said Comey had written love letters to the ADL and embedded agents within the group, which he accused of running disgraceful ops spying on Americans. So now it's okay to say that these organizations were spying on Americans. This FBI won't partner with the political fronts masquerading as watchdogs, Patel said in the social media post. He did not elaborate on or provide evidence for his claims. In 2014, the speech to the ADL's National Leadership Summit, Comey said the FBI had made the advocacy group's law enforcement and society training mandatory for personnel and partnered with it to draft a hate crimes training manual. Comey called the ADL's experience in investigating hate crimes essential and its training eye-opening and insightful. If this sounds a bit like a love letter to the ADL, it is, and rightfully so. That's coming from James Comey. While Patel did not mention Kirk in his statement, his announcement came just a day after the ADL removed more than 1,000 entries about alleged extremism from its website amid right-wing outrage over references to the late activist. The ADL said it made the decision as many of the terms were outdated and a number of entries had been intentionally misrepresented and misused. No, they made the decision because they received pressure from people on the right. Which brings up another point. Why doesn't the left bring that same type of pressure to the ADL? See, they think they slick. I'm going to show you what their website says in just a second. We're going to talk about how they, I feel, purposely added other groups so that if you go against them, then they can say you're going against those other groups as well. See, I wasn't born yesterday. I know how this works. Now they have responded. The ADL issues a new statement after Kash Patel cuts ties. And Kash Patel been all over the place these crazy days. Now, Again, it says they're facing criticism because they were basically labeling some Christians extremists. So here we go. They go into his statement. The criticism of the ADL comes during heightened political polarization and increasing concerns over religious violence and free speech in the United States. Here's a picture here that says the ADL supports genocide, which they do. And here's their response. The ADL has deep respect for the Federal Bureau of Investigation and law enforcement officers at all levels across the country who work tirelessly every single day to protect all Americans, regardless of their ancestry, religion, ethnicity, faith, political affiliation, or any other point of difference. Everybody notice this work tirelessly comment again? Sound familiar? Why does everyone keep using this phrase? She's working tirelessly for a ceasefire. Work tirelessly. In light of unprecedented surge of anti-Semitism, we remain more committed than ever to our core purpose to protect the Jewish people. By the way, unprecedented surge. Jonathan Greenblatt's been saying this for years. Jonathan Greenblatt for years has been saying we are seeing a surge. Unprecedented. How many times do you surge? How many times is it unprecedented? But let me show you the game. Peep the game. If you go to the ADL's website, I want to show you guys something. ADL Global Atlas Mapping an Urgent Anti-Semitism Problem. Watch this. Because I thought this was interesting. Look at the issues. Right over here towards the right. Fight anti-Semitism, combat extremism, disrupt online hate and harassment, protect civil rights, challenge bias. Which one is first? Let's make this bigger. Because I want to prove a point about this. Which one is first? First is fight anti-Semitism. Then it's combat extremism. And when they say extremism, they're talking about on the right and the left. They go after what they call left extremism, and they go after what they call right extremism. Let me say something about the left extremism for just a second, because I want to prove a point. When they come after like the progressives, who they call left extremists, which that's not extreme. When they go after those politicians and say that they're left extremists, all of those politicians are advocating for an end to a genocide, and they've criticized Israel. Now, I would go further than them and say that, no, you should not vote to fund the Iron Dome. You're protecting Israel when you do that, right? But when they say combat extremism, and they're calling out the progressive Congress members that support progressive policies, how come they don't never call out Israel for having those same policies? Uh-oh. How come they don't call out Israel for having universal health care? How come they don't call out Israel for having free public college? That's the same type of left extremism they have an issue with. Not just the Gaza stuff. It's also basic economics. Why they don't call that out? If you look at this closer, disrupt online hate and harassment, but that's whatever they consider that to be. That can change. As I just told you in the previous article, they said they scrubbed their website of some of the organizations that were identified as extremists. This can change. Protect civil rights. Why is civil rights all the way down here? Because you know what that includes? Watch this. Protect civil rights. That includes racial justice, LGBTQ, gender equity, refugee status, religious freedom, immigrant. Okay, so to prove my point, and I want to make this very clear, protect civil rights all the way at the bottom. Notice what they put first and what they put at the bottom. What does that tell you? This organization in particular was established to protect Jewish Americans. That's what it was established for, primarily. That's the number one focus. And let me ask you a question. As we've seen this with other organizations as well, right? They usually put their needs first. Other needs come later. Why is it that when Black Americans say, let me put the needs for my community first, why is it that the ADL and all these other organizations will come to Black Americans and say, you need to include everybody else? Somebody asked that question. Because, see, I want to prove a point. They prioritize them. When we look at where we are on the ground, in the courts, in the halls of government, in the news, on campus, in schools, around the world, online, everywhere. But Jonathan Greenblatt would have you believe that this is the most oppressed group in the world. You see what I'm saying? Now look at something else. When we look at protect civil rights, I'm going to highlight it here. Do, 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 do. Since our founding, the ADL has fought for justice and fair treatment under the law through our civil rights work throughout the course of our history. We have filed or joined briefs in cases concerning, look at the order, religious freedom, immigrant and refugee status, racial justice, LGBTQ rights, gender equity, and other civil rights issues. What are the other civil rights issues? And also, notice what they put first: religious freedom, because that applies for Israel. Then is immigrant and refugee status. Racial justice is third. LGBTQ is fourth. The reason why I'm pointing this out is this. Now, Black folk, Black organizations, you were told that you need to be pro-Israel. The Congressional Black Caucus is told they have to be pro-Israel. They put Israel first. But on the ADL's very website, do they put you first? Do they put any other group first? I hope everybody is picking up what I'm laying down, because this is what has basically been happening, folks. You have all these other organizations, NAACP, Congressional Black Caucus, Urban League, all these orgs that are supposed to really represent the Black community or help the Black community. All of these organizations are Israel first. That comes before you. But you don't come before them. So I'm fine with the FBI cutting ties with the ADL. I mean, Israel is paying influencers like $7,000 for a post. Why doesn't Israel fund the ADL? These are things people need to think about. When I tell you I have questions, This is some of the things I'm talking about. Like, you got to pay attention to some of these things. Everybody, every other organization is supposed to stop what they're doing, and they're supposed to prioritize Israel and put Israel first. And don't tell me it's not true. I've heard it from multiple organizations, especially Black ones. But none of these organizations, the ADL, APAC, even Kufi, which is a Christian organization, they put Israel first. But their organizations don't put you first. Let that sink in. So like I said, if you're Black and you're still supporting Israel, you're a fool. Case in point. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.